Sure.
That's great.
So I'm Simon Blake, and I'm the Chief Exec of Mental Health First Aid England, which is a social enterprise, and with a mission to improve mental health, vision to improve the mental health of the nation. And our mission is to train 1 in 10 adults in mental health first aid and mental health skills. 1 in 10, because we think that's the tipping point you need in order to create culture change around mental health. Although I have to say, what you have seen in this last 4 or 5 weeks is so much focus and attention on mental health and emotional well-being. It's been really exciting actually to see how many people. It's almost like a crash course in emotional literacy. Yeah. So we in Scotland, you've got Scottish Mental Health First Aid, which is through the government. We're a social enterprise, and we do all sorts of training, awareness training, mental health first aid training. Most of it used to be face-to-face. We're now doing quite a lot of it online as well, and about to do the mental health first aid course online for the first time in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that's okay, interesting. So you're embracing all digital with everyone else. You raise a good point, and it almost has felt like a crash course in emotional literacy and speaking about mental health more than we ever have done. I guess you're starting to think about your digital delivery. Are you seeing any kind of trends in terms of some of the feedback from people that you've been in contact with in terms of more of either a willingness to speak about mental health or more of a need to get support from your organisation?
I think what we have seen is, I think, a shift, and I've spoken to quite a lot of people in the way that meetings are held. If you're running a half an hour meeting, there seems to be 15 or 20 minutes of that meeting which are about checking in and checking how people are and connecting. And then the business being done in 5 minutes or in 15 minutes, depending on where your ratio is. So I think what we are seeing certainly is a greater sense of people wanting to check in. Now, in terms of mental ill health, where there is still stigma, I think what we are seeing is that people are talking more about ups and downs of everyday life. Whether we are seeing any sort of major impact on people feeling the stigma around mental ill health, I think is too early to tell. But certainly, I think it's become just culturally acceptable very quickly to say, actually, I'm not having a great day. And all that sort of sense of productivity before lockdown, people saying, actually, let's just rip up our notion about what productivity was before lockdown and work out what is important to do now and what looks good now. And that's adjusting for both the very practical things, if you've got children or other caring responsibilities, but also for the understanding that actually our emotional resilience, our well-being may just not be in the same place that we were before.
And obviously we've been fed a lot of information at the moment, and we've kind of gone through a process of it being quite an immediate and an immediate response to working from home, having our routines changed, and I guess we're now sort of realizing this might be going on for a little bit longer, so it's becoming a little bit more normal. With that, there's a lot of information coming via the media on some of the situations in hospital and the situation with stats round about COVID. It can be quite overwhelming, and I don't know if you've got any thoughts on the way that we should receive, or the way we should kind of interpret and digest the amount of information which is available to us at the moment.
Yeah, I think just to pick up on your first point, actually, I think we did adapt really, really quickly to working from home. I did, certainly in my close circle of friends and family, and then with a number of peers and sort of wider networks, there has been a moment, I think, in the last 4 or 5 days where there's been a lot of feeling, a lot of sense. So that sense of it might be a bit longer, I think, has done something to us and is impacting on businesses. How should we process information? I mean, if I had a magic wand, I think I would get rid of it all apart from 2 minutes a day is how it would work best for me. Because I do think it's exactly that. For a lot of time it's overwhelming. I'm not enjoying, I watch the briefing, but I'm not enjoying the journalists' questions. I've been listening today and there's lots of conversation about, you know, the impact on other operations. And there's part of me which is like, of course, if you are you know, needing treatment, it's really, really significant. But they're talking about things like, you know, you have to weigh up the risk of this treatment with coronavirus. Like, yes, of course. And I just don't feel that benefit from it. So, but everybody's different. And I think the most important thing is that if we get better at checking in with ourselves and understanding, you know, I learned a long time ago that watching Newsnight or Question Time before I went to bed wasn't good for me. So don't do that. Yeah, I think it's checking in with ourselves. You know, if listening to the news makes you feel better, great. If listening to it actually makes your heart race, do less of it. Yeah, I don't think there's a right answer, but there is one, which is checking in with ourselves and trying to find the right place for you.
And in terms of checking in with yourself and with colleagues, mental health first aid, could you explain what it is and what the kind of thought behind it and the process? And if I was an employer who is thinking about the well-being of my staff, especially at the moment when they're working remotely, what sort of things could I be thinking about to put in place to have open conversations about mental health, that sort of thing within?
Yeah. So I think there's two bits to that question, Kieran. There's one which is you know, the mental health first aid, and that is really a 5-step process, which is about, you know, people who had trained and have the skills to have open, positive conversations, to recognise signs and symptoms, and then to signpost to other forms of help and advice, with a real strong sense of, you know, being non-judgmental, non-stigmatizing, and really about signposting. It's not about therapy, it's not about counselling, it's not, you know, psychiatry or anything like that. It really is that first response, first aid piece. And I just think, you know, it's something which I think every organisation should have a form of expertise around mental health and well-being. And some people have that within their HR directors, some people have it within their line managers. But at its heart, if you're thinking about open conversations, this, you know, our well-being is about our humanity, isn't it? It's about knowing and understanding enough about our teams to know and understand when they may or may not be in a good place. And yeah, the really simple way of thinking about that from a manager perspective is always having the same question when you are doing a check-in with somebody. And so ours is, how are you, and what are you doing to look after yourself, which we would do in our one-to-ones, and continue with that. And when I first started at MHFA England about 18 months ago, I saw that question. I thought, oh, that's interesting. You know, it wasn't one that I had before. What I've learned by sticking to that is that it's noticing the changes. It's not what somebody says to you the first time, although sometimes obviously there is stark information which tells you something's wrong. But actually, we know that when people are less well, they do less to look after themselves commonly, and therefore it's tracking and understanding the changes. But I think, you know, I spent 21 years working in sexual health and HIV, and then the last couple in mental health. And of course, the same is true. Of course, we need training. Of course, we need support. But ultimately, it's about taking a deep breath. It's about having good intent, and it's about finding a way to have the conversation and demonstrating you care, demonstrating that you are able and willing to get support if they need it. But mostly, it's just about non-stigmatizing ways and approaches to having open, genuine conversations with people.
And as part of that, obviously, as a leader running an organisation at this point in time, it can be pretty stressful because you're managing the board, and sometimes I've heard people describe that as having game face sometimes with your board, because you're managing upwards and you're responsible for teams of staff as well. And yourself as a leader, how do you keep yourself well? How have you been looking after yourself? And what advice do you normally give to other leaders, or would you give, if any, about how to check in with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting one actually, because everything that I enjoy is outdoors. So I have a dog who's in lockdown with my parents because I was in America when this all started. I have a horse which is in lockdown in a yard which I can't go near, and the swimming pool is closed. So I've had to find a whole new way of trying to get those same highs, I guess. So I do a double round of Joe Wicks's PE class in the morning, which is hilarious, but only because there are 4 of us who do it together. So we have a WhatsApp group and we all phone. So you've got your phone lent up in one, you've got somebody playing music in theirs, and then Joe Wicks playing in another bit. And so actually, I'm not sure how much exercise we do, but we have the laughter, and it's helped because it's meant I get up in the mornings, where I start, I'm ordinarily a really early riser, and I was just finding that I was slouching in, and before you knew it, it was, there wasn't a definition. So that's been really important. And then actually saying the one thing that I'm going to really look forward to today, and make sure that there is something to look forward to, because again, unfortunately, I'm not somebody who watches TV. So actually the day is really long when you used to go outside. And so I'm having to find books and colouring and conversations, and make sure that I don't end up on Zoom calls in the evening, because my instinct is to want to connect with friends in the evening, but actually there's only so many Zoom calls that you can do in one day. So being conscious of the thing that I'm going to look forward to. Sometimes there may be 2 or 3 things, but just making sure there's always something. And then of course, actually in the mornings, trying to really keep that sense of what are you grateful for, because I have an enormously privileged experience. I'm in a safe home. I've got space to move around. I can go out once a day. So far, most people are well, and all of those things. It is about accepting the reality we're in, accepting the circumstances we're in, and for me, accepting that they are not circumstances that I have chosen or that I like, but that I've got to play by the rules, and that's the thing to do. And so there's, I guess, sorry, just to make this slightly pithy in a bit, I think there's a level of acceptance which I have done. So, and that took me a few weeks. I didn't quite think it was as serious as it was, if I'm honest, at the beginning. And then when I did realise it was that serious, that okay, I have to accept that the most important thing now is that this gets sorted. And that was a really important turning point for me.
And you mentioned obviously feeling, and I feel this as well. I've been speaking to some of my colleagues about actually the sense of privilege in terms of my own kind of setup, even in terms of I have job security. That's a great thing as well. I'm thinking about some of your other roles. You're a trustee of Stonewall, and there might be some young people who are LGBTI plus, and they might be thinking about coming out to the parents, and that would be quite a difficult process. And obviously for a lot of young people, maybe the relationship with the parents or the guardians or their other siblings might not be perfect in terms of the home life. It's particularly tricky at the moment, and I'm actually on the board of a LGBTI charity also, and we're kind of asking ourselves these questions. Any kind of thoughts or reflections on some young people at this point in time who might be thinking about coming out, going through those processes, maybe concerned a little bit about how it might be received?
I guess there's a fundamental point here, isn't there, which is that where there is violence in a home, there are still services and our human rights remain, and so the police and others. And I just think it's obviously that's not always the right thing for anybody, but for LGBT young people. But I think it's important for us to remember that those basic principles still remain, and whether that's the Samaritans, whether it's a domestic abuse helpline or the police, that if there is violence, that we need to remind people that is still those services still exist. In terms of LGBT young people, it's a real double-edged sword, isn't it? Because you don't ever want people to be thinking that they should hide who they are, but you also want them to protect themselves, and so to make choices. So for me, it is that sense of what is the right thing to do for you now, rather than what is the right thing to do under ordinary circumstances. And I think we just in all of our interactions, in all of our thoughts, we just have to remember that what we may say is right in ordinary circumstances may not apply now. And actually, over many years, worked with people and just said, some of these things which you're learning about now may not be possible for you to apply in your life right now. I learned very early on, my first ever job was a sex education community project, and we'd done assertiveness, and a young man came back the next week, having been punched by his father for having tried to be assertive. It taught me then very early on that you have to remind people of their context and their situation. So I think it's for everybody, evaluate your context, evaluate your circumstances, and choose the right path and the right moment, and do what is right for now. And that may feel compromising, but if it's better to stay without coming out than it is to come out and to risk violence or rejection in this particular moment in time, that may be it's like everything, isn't it? Cost benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one more kind of thought in terms of actually adapting your organisation to be more digital and provide services. What kind of steps have you gone through? Has it been a kind of easier process for you as an organisation to think, right, all of these things would normally be delivered face to face, but we're going to have to think about quite rapidly how we are there for people and deliver our services and go online? Did you have the infrastructure there before as an organisation? What kind of learning have you gone through?
Yeah. Did we have the infrastructure there? We had some parts of it. I mean, we were very, very, it was very easy for us to go and work at home. We were all set up for doing that, but we don't have the infrastructure for online services. We're in the process now of working that out in terms of virtual classrooms and virtual learning. And there's a GIF or a meme, isn't there? I never remember which one is which is, what caused your digital transformation? 2020 digital transformation leader, COVID-19. We are doing these things in direct response. But equally, what I'm really proud of and really excited about is that actually this is going to be delivered differently, but it will achieve the same objectives. And overall, we're going to continue to be able to support people's mental health. And I am a huge believer that we need to reduce our travel for both the environment, but also for our well-being. I think that we can do so many things online in much more efficient ways. And I think we will get better at understanding online and what is truly possible and truly able to be done. It isn't doing an online, watch a video, read some stuff, do a quiz. It's much more interactive than that. And I did a demo in a virtual classroom the other day, and it's amazing that you can get put in a room and then you can press the buzzer and the instructor comes into your room to talk to you. It is amazing what can be done. And so I'm really excited actually about the possibilities and the opportunities. And would we have wanted this to be the scenario in which we had to make the change? No. Are there going to be upsides? I hope so. If you think about the ability that we've had to get homeless people off the streets in a few weeks, my view is it would be morally reprehensible now to say, actually, COVID-19's over. There you go, and back onto the streets. I think we have shown some things have got to be possible. We've shown they are possible, and there's no going back for me. It feels like in terms of digital, in terms of some of the issues around equality and equity.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of things actually that are a benefit in terms of not travelling as much in the ways we're working, and maybe having that that kind of view of what your work-life balance. As a team and with your team, we're certainly having some conversations within Social Investment Scotland about things which are positive and we want to keep, and things that would maybe change. Are you having those sort of conversations with your team about what the benefits have been of maybe working more flexibly, using technology, travelling less, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we are. I mean, and we're also having conversations. So we ripped up our business plan, or pressed pause on the business plan.
Yep.
For now. And we've just got 6 objectives, and we are all working around the 6 objectives. And what we have realized is, just in doing that, is that you achieve those 6 objectives and you can do your next 6 objectives, and you probably get things done much quicker than when you have the 48 objectives, which is what you normally do under usual circumstances. So I think there are lots and lots of things which it feels like we're still in the thick of it at the moment. We've categorized our process as responding to the immediate crisis, which we feel like we did in the first sort of 10 days, getting everybody home. Then we're saying working in the normalized crisis, and that's where we are right now, as we know what we've got to do, but we are still very much in the crisis stage. Then there's going to be the road to recovery, which is, I think, where we'll pause and reflect, and we'll know and understand. We'll have a new portfolio, we'll have developed some new ways of working, and then there will be the new normal. So we are having the conversations, but at this stage they're very much acknowledging them, marking them up on a virtual whiteboard, and then knowing that we'll need to come back to them at the next stage. But I think it's been really helpful for us to just package into those 4 categories, so that we know we're not going back to the old. We know that there's a new that you're arriving to, and that we were dealing with the immediate, and these next 2 phases feel like they're really, really important in terms of organisational development and the choices that we'll be making.
Absolutely. And just finally, if I'm an organisation who's looking to work with you, how can we do that? So you're looking to take your services online. We're based in Scotland. You mentioned the relationship with Scottish Government. It's certainly something I think most organisations will want to look into going forward. So how might we do that?
Yeah, so we actually work closely with colleagues in Scotland. So mhfaengland.org is the website, people can contact us, and if we think that there are things which are specific to Scotland, or things that we need to think about because we're in England and based in Scotland, then we'll always refer back or talk to colleagues in Scotland. So we currently run a programme across the UK for around the construction industry, which we've done in partnership. So contact us in the first instance, and then if we need to refer you back or to find a way to ensure that it's relevant, then we've got those connections and those partnerships very much there. And I think actually a colleague from Scotland was going to be potentially coming on to the line, who may also tell you how to contact them directly, because I don't have that off the top of my head, which probably was a piece of prep that I should have done. But it's within NHS Scotland if people want to find out more about SMIFA, Scottish MHFA. Perfect.
Thank you very much for your time today, Simon, and thanks for agreeing to do this. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I've taken a lot from it, and I'm sure people who have decided today have as well. So thank you.
Thanks very much for inviting me. Good luck. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.